pues hoy nos acercamos a una banda no tan conocida, pero que guarda una historia de lucha en busca de libertad. Hablamos de Confess, cuarteto iraní de metal extremo perseguido por el gobierno islamista de su país, una banda que cobra ahora una nueva vida en Noruega. Allí es donde dos de sus integrantes han encontrado asilo político tras haber sido condenados a 14 años y medio de prisión por escribir música satánica y enfrentarse a la posibilidad de ser ejecutados por blasfemia. Tenemos con nosotros al vocalista y guitarra de la banda, Nikan Hoshravi, Sainor. Hi, Nikan, how are you doing?
I'm fine, man. How are you?
We're doing great. Well, we were just introducing your story, the way you were arrested and faced execution. Emotionally, how did you live through that process? How has it changed your life?
I mean, it was a very tough process, as you can imagine. Of course, one day you're a civilian, the other day you're in a solitary confinement for your music, and at the time I was 21 years old, so it was very tough process for me. But at the same time, I mean, I try to fight it as hard as I can and just try to stay calm during the whole thing. And I just kept the hope that one day I will get out of this situation, and of course would be able to get back to my normal life. But yeah, I would say it has its own effects at the time, even right now. But I would say I just did my best and I could pull it off.
How did you manage to get asylum in Norway? I mean, was it difficult in the terms of administration, and how did you get away from Iran too? I mean, was there any difficulties regarding government?
Yeah, I was banned from traveling outside of Iran, so it was a tough trip to go to Turkey. I was living in Turkey for almost a year and a half, and after talking to media, I received some emails from some organizations that claim themselves as the ones that are working with a persecuted artist over what they published in their homelands. So didn't really have that much hope. At that time, it was 2018. I just signed some applications and just sent it out. And like 2 months later, they get back to me with this offer from the Norwegian government that you can move over here. And so I didn't really had a plan to move anywhere specifically, and I didn't know anything about like moving to Norway. The thing is that basically Norway chose me to come over. But when I got the offer, my situation was very emergency. I mean, I needed to move as far as possible from that place because Turkish government can also hand you over to Iranian government. It wasn't very safe. So that's how I ended up in Norway in December of 2018.
So was it like a new life from scratch, or did you have any familiar people or contacts through others in Norway?
No, totally new life. I mean, of course, when I came here, since I said some organization, so it means that some people were waiting for me in here during the whole process because they knew me, they read my application and all that. But no, not any friend or any family member or anything. Not even a friend that, for example, living in Norway from years before or anything. So basically, in the last 3 years that I've been living here, everything was starting from scratch, you know.
Well, it's well known that since the Islamic Revolution in '79, the situation is not easy in Iran for artists in general. I mean, for example, I know Jafar Panahi, an international recognized film director who shoots and releases his movies secretly. What do you think is the main objective of the Iranian state with all these restrictive issues and rules?
I mean, the basic thing is that they they are having a blueprint of making a kind of society that they're looking for, and they haven't been successful in the last 44 years of their I would say kingdom, because there's nothing like a democratic um country. Yeah, we have elections, but so um but at the same time, I would say they are trying to build up a type of society that is specific in their own mind, and censorship is very important. I mean, I always saw the Islamic regime in Iran as a like a religious fascist government. So, as we all know, during the history of fascism, art was very important way to make propaganda, and they are making it the mainstream. And if you want to kind of make a shortcut around it, or having your own way of thinking, and now making something out of it, art, like independent art. They call it propaganda against the state, like the way that they did for us, Jafar Panahi, or any other artist. So you either have to say that, okay, give up, whatever you say, Lord, I mean, whatever, or you fight it back. We are the ones, Jafar Panahi, as you mentioned, we are the ones that we're fighting. And yeah, Jafar Panahi made his last couple of movies while he's like with a very simple, like a camera and all of that. And he's a fucking genius. And at the same time, I think that we also did our thing. But for example, we wrote our last album while we were bailed out from jail. So I mean, when you're living in a society like that, you will learn, how to make some shortcuts around it and all that.
Do you see any future scenario where things will change in Iran, and how could that happen?
I mean, of course, without hope, I mean, it's impossible to live. I mean, we all hope that one day it all can, like, I mean, turn around like the way it also happened 44 years ago, around all in a duration of 6 months. They just overthrown a monarchy. So how it would happen, I mean, I don't know. Of course, people should just should get together, and the opposition outside of Iran and the opposition inside of Iran, which mostly they're in jail, but they're very powerful people. They should get together and just come up with some plans, and people should be unified. And it's an uphill fight. I mean, but of course, there's not a political system that has that could survive without its own people, so they won't do it either.
Well, regarding Confess, you have the new album out, which is called Revenge at All Costs, quite a meaningful title for the album. Do you seek revenge against someone in particular?
Not like, no, of course we are against like a school of thought. We are not against a person. Yeah, there's some people in my mind that they're very responsible for my case and all of that. But at the same time, they're just puppets. They're just dogs of the government that send out for us. They're nobodies at the end of the day. So it's not like we're against a person or against, for example, 5 persons or whatever. No, we're against a school of thought that comes from this type of regime, and it could be anywhere. But since we come from Iran and this is how they treated us, this is what we know. And of course, our anger is aimed at the people that are responsible for the tragedies that happened to us, and it basically changed our whole life. And some parts were good, some parts mostly were bad, but we tried to flip it. And it took us, for example, 7 years to release an album again. During that time, I could release 3 albums. And that 7 years would never come back again. I was in jail for a year and a half. That year and a half would not ever come back again. So yeah, there were so many things involved, but But yeah, the answer is that our rage and anger is aimed at a very specific type of thinking. That is that if you should box everyone and just take all their will and free thinkings.
How did you record the album, this one and the previous ones, especially looking to Iran? What's the situation for music studios in the country?
Yeah, of course I mean, there are so many, I mean, music studios, but getting into it, plus it's expensive, is that for making art basically in Iran, if you want to put it out, like selling the physicals and all that, like going on stage and performing it in public, you need to get permits from government. Government goes through your stuff, check it out, see if there is, you see the censorship, you should cut this part. If it's a book, if it's a movie, if it's there is a ministry for that. You get that? There's a ministry that is getting your stuff, the raw material, look into that, and then they give you the permit that, okay, now you can go on stage, or you have to delete this part or censor that part, or this is how it goes. So for us, it was not easy to go in studios, and those ones that would let us in, it was like late night after the working hours for making some extra cash, letting us in, and it was very expensive. So basically, not only us, most of the like Iranian metal bands, they work at their home studios. They try to make like a minimum supplies to provide the minimum supplies to like be able to make music at the basically bit, like I mean at the room, in their bedroom.
That's what I wanted to. Sorry, that's what I wanted to ask you, because how is it for the rest of the bands and the metal community in Iran? I mean, regarding live shows and ways of promoting music, record stores and pubs, and
there's not an, I always answer this question. I mean, when they ask me that, is there a metal scene in Iran? Yes, absolutely, it's very huge, but there is not an actual scene. You don't have a metal festival like I know Resurrection Festival in Spain. There's nothing like that. You do not have a metal shop in a corner of a street or metal magazine in a kiosk. No, everything is basically on the ground. Yes, you will get as many as metal t-shirts as you want, but if you know the right guy who sell it, you can be able to. Yeah, I remember I was 12 years old. I bought the Korn poster, Slipknot poster, Linkin Park poster, Slayer poster, Pantera, but from a place that was basically just selling some other stuff. But the dude was a metalhead. So whenever that he went outside of the country to Europe or any other country, he bought some stuff, bring it back, sell it to other people, and then you needed to say that who sent you. Who sent you? It's like he's like you're doing your drugs, It was like fucking weird. And so this is a lot of things. I mean, even in studios, like, okay, who sent you? I mean, like, yeah, okay, so get in, and you have 2 hours to record your guitars. So basically, we recorded our second album, 2015, mostly in my home studio. But the third one, Revenge at All Costs, it was recorded twice actually. Once I recorded that the same story in Turkey in my home studio. I made a home studio while I was in Turkey. And when I moved to Norway, I met some dudes, and one of them turned out to be a producer for the new album. He told me that the album is a very good album, has a good potential. Let's work on it sound-wise, and let's re-record the guitars and drums. At the beginning, it was like, oh no, again. But then Corona happened, so we're like, yeah, since we're sitting at home, why not? So it was good, kind of, in a way. The positive side of sitting at home for me during this, like, around 2 years of lockdowns or restrictions, in a way, was to record my album and just finally release it, because the album was basically ready to be released in 2019 at the beginning. But then we just put it on pause. We recorded that, got signed by Rexis Records, and then we released it.
Mhm.
So it was good.
I also wanted to ask you about women in metal, because, well, in heavy metal in general, not only in Iran, but all around the world, we could say that there's no, well, the men are just more, right? So
Yeah.
how is it in your country? Because we know there are some prominent female artists in the underground. What's their relevance and what do they bring to the table?
I would say, I mean, yeah, I know some Iranian female singers inside and outside of Iran. I know some Iranian drummers, female drummers, inside and outside of Iran. There are some great guitar players in Iran. They're females. Not only in metal, man. I mean, we have some great rappers in Iran. They're females, and like in the whole, spectrum of art and everything, you can see so many good female artists. Yeah, there are plenty of them, but of course, I mean, it's even if it's hard for me to talk my talk in Iran, just imagine how hard it is for a female in that country. But yeah, I mean, as you say, metal is a mainly male dominated genre, but in the last couple of decades, I would say it's it's not that boy club anymore, right? It's like you go to like shows here and there and you see girls in mosh pit, you see girls are headbanging, and so it's nice, it's cool. I mean, it's if they feel like this is their music, this is what they love to do, of course men should support them. And I really love to see some great female front and heavy metal band on stage and be like, fuck yeah, it's a good music.
Well, we did a little research and we found the oldest Iranian metal bands from the late 90s and early 2000s. Is that correct? Also, in which ways did they inspire you or pave the way for you?
Of course it's not. I mean, mid 90s now, I would say. I mean, because I just, I mean, rock and metal music is basically rock music is something that goes way back before the revolution. I mean, the first soft rock, alternative rock bands comes from in Iran, formed in mid 50s, 60s in Iran. And then after revolution, everyone just went underground. Most of them left the country. The rest, got to the business, just got over the whole dream of being rock star, and everything is changed, and then all of that. But I never actually did some research, but mid 90s, it would be how many years ago? It would be around like 25 years ago. That kind of sounds right. But who knows who was the first one, I don't know. But you're asking me about
is there any band like that had a defining influence in you, an Iranian band?
I cannot really say that, because the problem in Iran is that everyone is like islands, and you do not have a big media to support you and like put you on a radio show. So it's hard to recognize these talents. And I remember that even when I started my band, you were like, "Yeah, man, I'm making good music." And at the same time, you hear a dude that, because the internet changed everything a lot more, and then someone just shared you something on your social media, and you're like, "Oh shit, are they really in Iran too?" I mean, they make great music, but back in the days, there weren't that many of. They were, but we weren't aware of, because it wasn't internet wasn't really that big of a outlet back then. I'm talking about the like 2000s, the mid 2000s. And So, and I'm talking about the time of MySpace and all that. Not everyone had a MySpace account to, to showcase their own work. But I remember there was this band that I always will remember that. Their name was Q-Teen. If you can search it, I mean, if anyone's listening to this, do yourself a favor. Search Qutin. There is this technical melodic death metal band from Iran that they released their album in I remember at that time I was still learning how to play guitar. It was, I guess, 2010. Man, that album, 2009 or 10, that album inspired me enough to start my own band. I was like, and those guys were actually close friends of my guitar teacher. My guitar teacher was a metalhead, but it was like more like you have to become a solo artist, That Slipknot play, yeah, that's cool to hear, but look at Joe Satriani, you know what I mean? Like any other guitar teacher. And I was like, cool. And then one day he brought me the CD and said that this is from my friends, just go check it out. I went home and it just changed everything. I was like, if these dudes could do it, I'm definitely gonna fucking do it. These guys are legit. And 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 after a while, I heard from one of them, because I remember that my teacher used to tell me that I really talk about you with them, and they watch some of your videos while you're playing, and they were like, he has a good future and all that. So those guys, I never met them. There wasn't any show or anything, but I remember that I had the idea of making a band until the day I listened to it, and then it kind of pushed me to start my own thing. So yeah, that was the band that I would say inspired me in a way.
Nice, nice. Well, you actually started your own label, Opposite Records, in 2014. Did it in any way help you to make international contacts?
Yeah, we were basically supposed to release some of the, in a way, release. Basically, the thing was that we talked with a bunch of artists. I don't know name them because it never happened. To take their new album, actually buy a bunch of like a number of their album, and basically retail selling it in Iran underground. And they were like, yeah, cool. Labels were like, yeah, we'll give you discount for the cause and all that. But then we just ended up in jail. I started the label in 2014 and started working with some artists, and as the name explains, Opposite Record, the main idea was to support the opposite of mainstream, and it's more specifically lyric wise, those who are really talking about serious stuff, we support those. And at the same time, we were trying to do those type of things, but we started 2014, and November of 2015 we were arrested. So basically just everything just fell apart, and yeah.
Well, regarding the album, your own songs, we can identify kind of Slayer, Sepultura, mid-tempo vibes in there, like those thrash and death riffs, and mostly rhythmic ones, and quite pissed off. Is that what you like to transmit, and that people receive that anger that your music delivers?
I mean, the anger and that kind of a fast-paced, all metal, full punch, I mean, non-stop type of things. Yes, that's my theory of metal. I love my metal hard, heavy. I mean, just run, that kind of thing. No beating around the bush, just punch in the face from the first song to the last one. I like that. And as one of our American friends always says, that your theory of metal is very American. It's like, no, not that much melody, or always there's this part that is gonna, then song's gonna stop, or gonna be a very long build up, or no. If there's gonna be any build up, it's gonna be in the intro, and then it's not gonna stop. But the influences Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I read so many subgenres being named in reviews. Maybe it's the first time I'm saying. I've been reading so many band names being like flying around, and when I'm reading it, I'm happy because if my music can remind people of Slayer, come on, bro, what else you? And at the same time, everyone's asking that why nobody can put you in just one sub. Everyone's like thrash, groove, new metal, death metal, hardcore. And I'm like, this is intentional. Since day one, I wanted to mix everything cool. I didn't really want to just be one subgenre, be like thrash metal band, or groove. I want all of these cool things that I heard during my life.
Mhm.
And it's somewhere stored in my head, the elements of different subgenres. At the same time, for example, I love rap music, right? So it also comes to the genre. If I like anything from somewhere, my brain have this type of thing that it kind of stored it somewhere, and then I don't know how it comes out. But I never thought about Lamb of God writing music, right? I never thought about a Slipknot. I know that I never wanted to invent a genre. I just wanted to make a perfection in a way that mixing things together. And I think that's one of the things that people received, or especially a new album, very well, is that everyone can find a track, or at least a part of a track that would be interesting for them, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's it. But I'm fucking it. It's an honor to be named the breath of Sepultura or Slayer or Slipknot. These are the bands that got me into this. I mean, so if
Mm.
I can remind someone of, I heard so many times that my friends starting calling me the young Cavalera. I've heard so many times that in the reviews that his voice reminds you of of a young Max Cavalera, of a young Max Cavalera. If it does, good. I mean,
Mm.
I'm happy. I mean, it's not like I would be offended in a way or somehow, because it's just great to see that it reminds people of golden days of some of the classic metal bands.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned too that there's not much melody in your music, but through the album we can hear
Yeah,
some
it
kind
is.
of.
No, I mean,
I mean,
the melody of it. Yeah, sorry.
it's like Arabic or Middle East sounds. Do they refer to your homeland, or is it something you carry inside?
It must be inside. I mean, melody like a folk melodies. I never thought about it. It
It's not.
must be inside of me. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I come from a country that has like thousands of years of culture and music and art in different ways, and poetry and all of that. So I remember we used to have to memorize long poems and go in school and like and sing it in front of the class. This is how we grew up. It's like it's impossible to not know a bunch of very classic poems of a very famous classical Persian, I mean, poets in Iran as an Iranian. So, and music wise, it has its own style. So it must be somewhere, down my brain, and maybe that's why when you hear it and you're from another country, another continent, it can to you is new, but to me is like, I don't, you see what I mean? It's like you can hear that part in my music, but for me, since it is not intentional, I cannot really say that if I wanted to do it or not. But yeah, of course we do have melodies. What I meant by answering that question was that um like a prog metal kind of melody, or that kind of structure. What I said about the structure of my music is that intro, verse, bridge, chorus, that type of thing.
Mhm. um, since you left Iran and arrived to Norway, what has the main change been in your daily life?
My daily life, I don't know. I had a job before. I still have a job. I mean, I'm maybe in the way of thinking. I mean, it's like, I mean, everything is more possible now. I mean, music wise, you can like think about doing shows. You can think about like pushing a little bit more, so you can probably be able to do a tour somewhere or that in that sense. But I mean, now I'm running a metal festival here. I'm programming it. I mean, I'm working with another festival for their thing as a producer assistant. I guess that's the thing. I mean, the way of working things in here is of course different.
You mentioned tours. So when COVID permits it, are you planning to tour Europe, or what's your
And
plans?
I never plan to tour fucking Mars, you know. I mean, if it's me, I don't want to get back home ever again. I just want to go out. But the thing is that so many people are asking us, aren't you going to tour? Aren't you going to? Yeah, we really love to. But the thing is, this business is very tough, and we're just learning more about it. It's not that easy, especially with the COVID, everything being canceled. So many companies are being bankrupt, and those sad tragedies are happening, and that it's gonna have its own effect for years to come. But yeah, I mean, we are planning to start working with bunch of dudes that can help us bring us on road and just go on tour, support other bands at least in the beginning, because it's also very expensive, not gonna lie. But I just hope that things get better. So I mean, the festivals, especially in Europe, is a very great start. You can go and start from like second stages, and then next year, 2 years later, you can be on main stage. But this COVID situation needs to be cleared out. I mean, I honestly, I get jealous to see bands going to US touring. Like, fuck, it's like another planet. I mean, Europe is like dark, silent, nothing's happening. At the same time, you see like people going out on different states in US and watching their favorite bands that mostly coming from Europe. Like, what the fuck?
That's what I wanted to ask you. What about the United States? Do you think you could make it there as an Iranian band and be well received?
Based on the statics, up to 40% of our fans are in state. And we just received so much love from them. We love them. I mean, come on. We as Iranians, them as Americans, we are just fucking, we are not the governments, you know? It's like, and the thing is that back to the 45 years ago and like even earlier, Iran was the biggest ally of the US in the East against the Soviet Union, against China, against all these countries. But it just took another turn and just took another approach in the last couple of decades. But yeah, I mean, they love us, we love them as anyone else, and we're just so happy to see that they dig our music and they want us to play. Yeah, come to New York, come to Arizona, come to here and there, and we're just like, man, I cannot wait for that moment that we would, be able to go out there and play for them. And yeah, we just hope to that day, because as I said, I just need this things to be cleared out, and then we just need to fix a couple of things and then just go on road and never come back.
Well, just to finish the interview, now after 3 years since you left Iran, what does Iran mean for you?
It's everything. Nice home. I do not have a home. It's my house in here, It's just, you have one home, and the home is where your family is where your memories is where your friends is like, it's where you're from. It's like, yeah, all the world is my country. I'm one of those guys. I'm like, fuck borders, man. Borders doesn't mean anything but just something in your brain and what they brainwashed us with. But that this is your nationality, skin, color of skin, or your language. These type of things will separate us. No, man, we are just all fucking human beings. There's no difference, and it's just they make people think so small that they think that everything the people's countries are becoming the neighborhood now. Everything has just become so small and small and small. But if we're talking about Iran is I cannot wait for the day that I get back to my city, Tehran, just see my own city. I mean, I miss it. Of course, I didn't choose to leave. They forced me to. I'm in exile, and I have to wait until the day to see that everything comes together. And maybe one day, I mean, it's just hard. Just, man, imagine you cannot go to your home. Just imagine, I mean, you gotta leave and never come back. Yes, you can come back, but you gotta go to jail. You won't do it, man, because you're not insane. You're not gonna fucking do it. But at the same time, you're always living in this dilemma that, one day maybe things will get cleared out, and then I can find myself with my family and my friends and just walking in the streets and smell it, the smell of the city, the air, and be there. So I just hope that it won't happen for anyone else. I mean, this is what it is. It's this fun life. I have to deal with that part. It's one of those negative things that will always stay, of course. But I'm just trying to find as much as friends like you in different countries and feel like I'm still at home.
Okay, well, so that's it. Thank you, Niken. All the best for the future.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Bueno, Dani, pues hasta aquí la charla con Nikan Khosravi, vocalista y guitarra de la banda iraní Confess, asentada, como decíamos ahora, en Noruega, y que acaba de presentar su tercer álbum, Revenge at All Costs, lo que traducido al castellano vendría a ser Venganza a toda costa. Esperamos que la charla os haya interesado y nada, hasta otra.